Perfect. Well, welcome, Mponeng and Yolisa. I was telling Mponeng earlier that just before you arrived, Yolisa, that this is the first time that I am recording a podcast with two guests at the same time. So I'm quite excited. It's a new experience for me. So I'm quite excited to see what comes up.
I feel very special then.
Oh,
to be part of it first.
Yes. Well, you have to keep pushing the boundaries and doing things for the first time. So, so let's dive straight in. Maybe just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, and give us a brief overview of what it is that you do, why you do it, how you ended up doing it, and then we'll dive into kind of some deep dive questions after that.
Cool. So I'm Mponeng Seshea, a co-founder and managing director of Imizizi. I'll just mention both because now there's Imizizi Evolution as well.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And Imizizi Evolution. So Imizizi is a people, and I'll let Yolisa actually tell. No, I'll tell what it is. Yoli will tell the backstory because she does it so well. She's like so gentle with it. So, our people management and advisory company. And really what we do is from a hire to retire, we assist clients with any people management related insights and business insights, and thereby giving them the ability to, make better decisions and goals, but with the people in mind. I think that's the one thing that organizations have almost lost track of, is that as much as you're making these goals and you're doing these strategies, the person must be in the heart of it, because that's the person that will help you actually reach that goal.
Yes, yeah. Before you get into the backstory, you see I'm already diving down rabbit holes. What is your feeling on the term human capital? Because I can understand where the term comes from and why, anyone involved in people management and HR call it human capital, but I always felt quite gross being being called human capital for a corporate company. So what are your feelings, and is there a better term?
So in actual fact, that's why we call ourselves a people management company, because we didn't want to be called an HR, whether it's human resources or human capital. It just, again, I think that yes, you're trying to put the human thing there, but it's almost like it's a tool. It's a human tool versus a machine tool.
Yes.
and I think we personally do not subscribe to such, and we felt like we needed to bring the people aspect out, and that's why we went with people management company instead of HR.
Yes, yeah. Okay, cool. So, next story.
Okay, so I'm Yolisa Tshabalala, also co-founder and director at Imizizi, and we formed Imizizi about 5 years ago, actually more than 5 years ago. Mponeng and myself, we childhood friends. We actually know each other from primary.
Jeez.
And the friendship actually grew. I would say post-varsity. That's when it actually grew, and from trying out, different businesses with other people as well, we actually realized that the both of us have shared values. And that's why we then decided, in actual fact, let's start something, just the two of us. And we our background, both of us, is actually in management consulting. So we were fulfilling different roles within that industry. And there's one thing that we both didn't like, in terms of, as a consultant, you never belong. It's almost as if you don't have a home because you're assigned to a client, but your actual employer is the other company. You hardly ever go there. So we wanted to change a whole lot of things within that space, and I like saying we wanted to humanize, that industry, which is where we started. But that vision has grown since then, because we've added, the full spectrum of people management. But Imizizi actually started in the consulting and contracting world.
That's amazing. I completely understand about the consulting thing, because as a freelance writer, you work with such diverse products and companies, but you never really feel like part of the family, which it has its pros, but it also has its cons. So do you want to tell us a little bit about Imizizi evolution as well? Because that kind of has grown out of the people management side. So do you want to dive into why you started?
So I'll do the why. Mponeng again can dive into the what. That's just how we do things, So 2 years after starting Imizizi, one of our other passion is women empowerment. We then realized that in actual fact, we want to help other businesses or business owners, help them avoid some of the pitfalls, that we found ourselves in, and realize that in actual fact, we would have liked someone else actually telling us, don't go that route, just a bit of guidance. And we started a program, ourselves, where we were incubating other businesses, mostly women. And I think about last year, we then
self-funded.
Yes, it was self-funded. So for a couple of years, it was self-funded. We were using our time, our resources, our network, just to make sure that we give back into those businesses. And then about last year, we then realized that in actual fact, women, there's a lot of programs that are incubating women, even though some of them are not doing it quite right, So we thought of formalizing, the program, but more especially concentrating on funding as well, incubating, accelerating, and funding women-owned businesses, because there's a big gap in terms of funding women specifically. And then can speak about the what is it that we do in that space.
So as Yolisa said, we just actually formalized what had already been naturally happening. So we've got the incubation, which looks at, actually, it's a venture builder. The Imizizi Evolution is a venture builder, which means that we've got the ideation hub, which is something we love and we have kept, and actually makes us an authentic venture builder. So the ideation hub, basically, the whole thing about it is that we either have ideas internally as the organization or the people that we know, or you get an idea from a client, or you've got an industry that you've seen a problem that you can solve for. So you run this idea, whether it would be a product or a service, you almost test it out all the way to MVP. And once it's at MVP and you see that it's viable and it can actually run, we then look for suitable business people who will take it on, like the CEO of the person, that will be the CEO and run with it, right? But obviously we still remain with assisting in anything that they would be needing in the background. Right. So that's the first part. And then we've got the incubation, which looks at businesses 0 to maybe 3 years. And I'll tell you just now why we've separated incubation and acceleration. So this looks at 0 to 3 years. And those people there, we're really focused on the person more than the business. Yes, we are looking at the business. We know your passion. We understand it. And we're already looking at a high level, the things that you just need to have in place to make sure you've just got a smoother journey than most people who wouldn't have those things in place. But we're focusing a lot on the human being and understanding how, I don't say this lightly, women have a natural leadership thing about them. We're natural collaborators, strategists, relationship builders.
It's very maternal.
Yes. So these things are naturally innate in us. But now if I have to think about how do I scale as a business.
Yeah.
So God, that's where it then we I feel like we come in, because we're almost just polishing a diamond in the rough. We're not doing anything really majestic here. But we're really focusing on the human being. And then the acceleration is focused on both the human and the business, because now you had 3 years of business, 5 years, maybe 3 to 5 years, and you're looking to scale, right? And one of the biggest issues there is that, say maybe most businesses don't look fundable on paper, right? So we just need to just clean that up almost, and then, give you that extra boost to be able to then pitch to say, yes, I am fundable, and yes, I can do A, B, C, and D. And then the funding structure is where we'll then be funding these women-owned businesses. And again, it's we're looking at more impact investment than just the VC way of doing it. And so we're struggling a lot with Yolisa, because we're like, the VC model doesn't work for the women that we want to actually fund, right? Because we're looking to fund in the space of food, water, sanitation,
essential
the essential basics, those vital services, because we keep wanting the newest and best tech, but we've got people who are going hungry.
Yes.
And can actually support a business that's just growing a farm. And that then over time, because we've got the business acumen and the ability to help you see in the future, we then say, how do we put in data, because we know how these things work? How do you put in data to make sure that, your farm is reading the right things and you don't use the pesticides or whatever? But we're then almost helping you formulate the scaling, but still on basic stuff that's actually going to be helping, the normal common person.
Yes.
And so the impact investment is important, because I can't invest in you if you're doing agriculture and expect my returns in the next 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
I must stretch it out a little bit longer. And then we're gonna be, then there's gonna be the normal investment, I suppose, because we need to make the money for the rest of the other people.
Yes.
And that will then be looking at your more B2B, but still women, but more services that can be easily scalable, but are still enabling, the basic and the vital services and needs. So within these ones, in the incubation, we're not funding, maybe granting grants or paying for like an invoice or something like that, because there's money management that goes into the training stuff that we do as well. And we're very particular then that the people that we're funding, we've accelerated in some program, because then we know we can guarantee that there will be a success.
Yes. You said you're not doing anything majestic. I think what you are doing is absolutely majestic. Like, we need more people invested in this type of thing, because you are quite right, especially coming from we're still developing nation, the economy. I mean, we've got all kinds of challenges at the moment, and we can maybe dive into that a little bit just now, but just from a people versus profit, I mean, at the end of the day, we all need to make money. We need investment so that we can move the economy forward, that we can get established businesses and extend that employment and that investment out to the people who need it. But if I don't know how to put this. Like, my goal is to also help people, but at the end of the day, I also need to make money, because charity starts at home. You need to make sure that you can put food on the table so that you can continue helping other people. So how have you been able to balance that kind of people versus profit? You need to find the balance to help versus making money yourself. So how have you approached that in the structure to make sure that it's a viable going concern for you while still extending help to other people?
So I'm assuming you're asking in the context of evolution only.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to divide it into evolution and
I think
overall.
So I think one of the things that we are very intentional about is the fact that, at the end of the day, you do need to make money. Hence why Mponeng spoke about we will still have those investments that are looking at like your 10x returns, etc., in the fintech industry, etc. And those ones we are looking at obviously making money so that we can support the businesses that we're actually passionate about, because at the end of the day, we can sit here and want to help, but without the money, we can't.
Exactly.
But we also haven't stopped ourselves, because we are also looking at grant funding. As I'm sure you would have seen that there's a lot of businesses or investors who are looking at investing in Africa, and some of them actually are philanthropic, investors. They're looking at, the women that are making the thing, the women that are going to change lives. And we are looking at not only helping one person, but we're looking more at the domino effect, making sure that that one business that we are assisting is not only going to thrive by its own, but the businesses that they also support or get what's the service provision from, that as they grow, the community is also growing. And I think from an Imizizi perspective, Imizizi on its own is a private company. So we are a profit-making business, and we are very intentional about giving back. One of the things that happened was that by year 2, we grew so quickly that we were a large corporate, and with that, we had a lot of requirements, from a triple BE perspective, but we also found that actually a lot of corporates make it a tick box exercise, which is why Mponeng and myself stretched ourselves to reach out to these businesses to help to give back. We work with a lot of organizations as well. Throughout South Africa, we've got organizations that we've supported in KZN that are looking after disabled children. So you do need to find the balance, still do the thing that's going to make you the money, but you need to be also intentional that when you do get the profits coming in, that you are spreading your wings. You don't forget about the impact that you want to do. I think another thing I've realized is that I might be a bit controversial here.
I love a bit of controversy, so let me get the popcorn. Yes.
I think this is also one of the major differences between male business people and women business people. It's the intent to actually make a difference, leave a legacy. It's not just self-gain, but looking at your environment, the community that you live within, being able to look at the future. What future do we want to get at the end of the day? And I think as women, it's very easy for us to have that sharing mentality, an abundance mindset, that as you are growing up, you're not only going up on your own, but you're also bringing other people with you. I think for me, that's what actually makes a difference in terms of
that whole lift as you rise.
Exactly.
Mentality.
Exactly.
So how has being women in a predominantly male-dominated corporate arena, how have you dealt with those challenges? Because obviously now you're trying. You mentioned earlier that you were looking at providing guidance for women. You've been through the whole kind of setting up a business and that whole procedure, and you've encountered a lot of roadblocks yourselves. So you want to try and smooth the pathway for others. What type of thing what type of challenges did you actually face? Because I don't know, we've obviously had different upbringings. I'm a middle-class white girl from the suburbs. So I've had different challenges. So could you maybe just dive into the type of challenges that you've had to face?
So I think if I just look at it as an aspect of it as a women-owned business, right? The challenges that we're facing there. One of our biggest challenges was courage, confidence. All right. And I mean, I don't think a lot of people actually speak about this enough. I don't think a lot of women who have made it speak about this enough. That it limits even the decisions that you make, because you don't think you are worthy of being able to, speak up or can actually do it. It's a consistent self-doubt. And then what we do is that we overwork to try and prove something that we want to eventually do, right? So you almost want to have someone stamp it and say, yes, approved. You can now jump to the next lane. And we forget the experiences that we have had even before we started the business, that make you qualified to actually do the thing that you want to do. So I think for me, that has been one of the things that I think once we actually realized it, you called it something syndrome.
It's the
imposter syndrome.
The imposter syndrome.
Ah, there we go. Yes, I suffer from that daily.
She'd call it the imposter syndrome. I would call it lack of confidence. But over time we realized it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's one of the biggest things that we had to we went past. I don't know how to say that.
Overcame.
And that helped. Having mentors, that helps a lot, because you've got someone to, a soundboard, someone who actually has vested interest in your development as a human being and in the business as well, and someone who will then be able to guide you if they do see a block, a self-limiting belief, because it's a self-limiting belief. How do you then go past it? Business coaches also help. It gives you that confidence that you are doing the thing, because I don't know. I think it helps for me, because there's a lot of things we don't think about when you're in business. You're always so operational, like you were saying. You're like the mechanic, because you're busy with everyone else and you don't have time for your own business. And that is important. So, for instance, one of our Janet. She's our business coach.
Well, Janet, Mponeng's renamed you.
She's amazing. She's our business coach. And I mean, she was teaching us about this productivity thing. And so she was like, if you would just stick to some of these things, because sometimes you don't need to go through your whole 1,000 emails in that day. You don't need to, So, those tips and tricks of people who have been there, who know and who have done these things. And I think it's so important. Some of the challenges, obviously, is people putting you down, show me the proof. But that, again, goes a lot back to confidence and how we shortchange ourselves as women versus our male counterparts.
Can I tell the story?
Which story?
To the challenges.
Yes.
The Red Bull guy.
Oh.
Can I tell the story, which beautifully also shows some of the challenges that we have? So we're in the human resources industry, which is predominantly female, but we are actually servicing, or where we started was in servicing IT departments, IT sector. And that industry is mostly male. So we found ourselves, operating surrounded by male, sometimes in the boardrooms we're the only females. And we found actually that some of the people wanted to take advantage of us. And there was this one incident, I think it was, we had not even started that much. I think we were 6 months in. 6 months into the business, the person was recommended to us to assist us because they're already in the industry. They have a track record, and he was supposed to give us tips, tricks. So we set up a meeting with him, And literally in that meeting, he told us that you girls, I can see you're really passionate about this, you're doing great, but I've got the experience. So how's about you just sit there and look pretty? I'll do everything for you. You just become the face, and that's it.
Oh, wow. Did he actually say
He
that?
even said, and this is a quote, wouldn't you want to just sit pretty and receive like a kickback every now and then? I was just
Oh, my oath. Yeah.
Straight to our faces,
Oh,
just like that.
There's that, right? And then there's the sexual thing that we can't get away from. And again, it's something that's not spoken about enough. You know, it's almost insinuated that, oh, I can make this thing happen for you, but you know, we need to kind of chill.
Yeah.
And you're just
wow.
no, I don't want to chill, you know? And then the boys clubs where these deals are done, right?
Yep.
And it's cigar clubs, it's golf estates and whatever.
Yeah.
It's spaces that we as women with children cannot go to.
Yeah.
I don't have time to be going to a cigar and whiskey club at night. I'd rather be going home. But now are you telling me that I can't be part of this business because I can't attend your ridiculous networks, socials? You know what I mean? And I think for me, this is the difference. But in saying that, you know, you're inviting me. There's a lady who spoke about it very well: diversity, equity, and inclusion. She was saying diversity is being invited to the party, right? Inclusion
is being invited to the dance floor.
Yeah, inclusion is being invited to the dance floor. Equity, I forgot equity. I forgot. But I think for me, the point is, and I think she made it in a very different way as well, is that if we're sitting around the boardroom and everyone is sitting on chairs, comfortable chairs for a 4-hour meeting, diversity is me being invited into that boardroom. But inclusion would be me getting the same chair. But if I'm sitting on an ottoman and I have no backrest, back support, that's not the same. It's not the same thing. You don't actually want me to be there. So these little boys clubs and boys things, and this is where the deals are made. You know, you forget that your wife is the one taking care of the children. And unfortunately, I am the wife and the person bringing the, you know, needing to make the deals. So, you know, it needs to change. It's such a, and I think that's why we started Imizizi Evolution, because we're like, maybe let's stop going to ask from these people. Let's create our own thing. But then the funding becomes an issue, right? Because you'll get 8 billion, meaning money to be funded to small business in South Africa, but only like 1% of 1% women-owned businesses will receive that money.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And you're just like, when are we then getting a break?
Yes. Yeah. No, 100%. Wow, I can't say that I've experienced. I experienced the boys' club when I was working corporate. It was very much, you know, you were invited to the meetings, but you know, give me your opinion, but I've already made up my mind what we're going to do. You know, and it was very frustrating living by someone else's rules. So being a small business owner run now, it's kind of like I get to live by my own rules and I get to, you know, reap the rewards of my own decision making. But it's still difficult to break into, you know, into markets because it is very much dominated by existing players and legacy, I suppose. So I suppose if you had to break it down to the bare minimum, I suppose we all face the same challenges, just in different ways and different scales. Now you mentioned the thing about productivity and that kind of thing. Now I don't know how you fit it all into one day, because like you just have to log on to LinkedIn and you both have like posted a gazillion times. You're like a judge at this award, you are getting awards, you publish in a magazine, you're running 2 companies, you've got kids. Like someone once told me that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like we all have the same 24 hours that Elon Musk has, and look at what he's achieved. Someone then else told me that no, we don't have the same 24 hours because Elon Musk has like a team of people that is doing everything for him, and all he has to do is come up with the ideas and make stupid tweets. So how the hell do you fit all of this stuff in? Especially in light of all the challenges that you face, all the challenges that you're trying to, all the problems that you're trying to solve within the women-owned business space. How do you find time to fit everything in and find that kind of work-life balance while still remaining focused on your mission? Please tell me the secrets.
So when the business is still growing, I must share that actually it's not that easy, because at the time where you're responsible for the strategy, but at the same time you're responsible for the operations, you have a family, you've got other relationships to maintain, your friends, your extended family, etc. It's not easy. But as we are growing, we're also learning a lot from other people. But what I can say on my side is it's very important that as the business is growing, that you build a strong team, a strong foundation, whereby the business can run without you being heavily there on a daily basis, like hands-on. Every fire, you are there. That's quite important and very key. The other one is planning is everything. And these are some of the things that we've learned with Mponeng from our coach, that productivity stuff that you spoke about, that you also have to realize that sometimes you can't get to everything. And that's why it's so important to be able to check what's important, prioritize what's important, what can wait, so that you attend to the things that will move the needle first. And there are things that, might not be, that big in terms of importance, but over time, they will get to a point whereby you can't ignore them anymore. So it's a constant balance and checking of priorities. And I think from a family perspective, it's very important to be intentional about the time that you spend with them, boundaries that you set. As much as the business, I like saying it's our baby. Now we have two babies that we're managing, and it's so easy to find yourself being too focused on the business and everything else doesn't exist. So you need that constant reminder and intention of setting the boundaries, whereby if there's a deal that you're working on, it's a phase, and when that phase finishes, you and have those constant conversations with your family, with your kids, with your husband, to say, this is what I'm working on. It's going to take this long. I might be coming home late, for a certain period of time, and then make up for it. That's another thing that we don't realize, that when you're absent, we are all humans. There will be your kids will notice that mommy hasn't been home. Your husband will notice. So you have to, plan ahead to spend more time with them and just maintain the balance.
And I found, for me especially, is accepting, I think, and this is a product of growth and introspection, which I think is important that everybody does. But I found that I'm not different people. I am all of them in one, if that makes sense. And I think accepting that reality has made it easier to then almost see how I can, where it's needed, how each flows into another. Like Yolisa was saying, for instance, with the kids, if it's like a very hectic weekend, like working week, for instance, one of the things will be like, okay, we're going to drive to mama's office, but then we're going to use the screen to watch TV and do like a we're in the movies type vibes, Then it's okay, because even if I'm spending that hour working, I'm then intentional in sitting and being very involved in how I'm spending the time with them. And even I feel like communication is something we do not put enough emphasis on as well.
Yeah.
Being able to actually, have that, this is what's happening in my life, this is what I need from you as a means of support, and whatever then happens later. We've learned to do it so well. My kids negotiate everything, even punishment. I'm like, no, punishment is not under negotiation.
Well, you've got some budding business people in the family if they're already negotiating.
My son was like, I'd said no TV and no laptop and no digital stuff at all because he hadn't been listening for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So he comes to me, he's like, I feel like I'm not going to be able to live. I'm like, you're being dramatic, you're going to be just fine. So he comes to me after he had gone through his dramatic moment. He's like, Mama, if we make it 3 months and I wash your car and massage your feet, it's negotiation.
That's hilarious.
Because we start to talk and start conversing, and he starts understanding why he's being punished. Instead of feeling like something has happened to him, he understands that the process sequence of events. I always say to them, every cause has a consequence. So if you're going to do something, do knowing that you're going to have a consequence. Like he wanted to jump off and be Spider-Man. I was like, you might fall and break something, which he did.
Well, yeah, we come back to that. Learn from the lessons of others, not your own.
It's a natural consequence of the thing that will happen afterwards, and understanding that you then need to take accountability and then bring that back in and learn. Is something that we need to do as humans as well, and we do it well. I think with Yolisa is reflecting.
It's such an important thing, like we were talking about before, to instill that kind of thing in your kids, because once they leave home, they need to take accountability. And I've always been I hate finance, but I've always tried to be on top of my finances because from the very young age, we had to do chores around the house. So you got paid to do chores. You didn't just hand out pocket money. You had to do chores. You had to study hard and get good marks. And so there was this, my dad had a very complicated spreadsheet with, for each chore, this amount. And then you had to use, so basically you got credits. And at the end of the month, you could exchange those credits for TV time or money or, whatever. There was a selection
of things. On that spreadsheet, I think a lot of parents would be so grateful to you.
I'm sure that my dad still has it somewhere. My dad has got spreadsheets for literally everything. Like his entire life is one giant spreadsheet. But, it's just that kind of thing, not handing out things to your kids. Like I know how to manage money, and I know that if I splurge and I buy something in the luxury, I might not have money to put food on the table. So it's very much that, and that's from my childhood. You don't learn that at school, and you don't learn that once you get into adulthood. You start from a very young age. So,
exactly.
Yeah. we've gone a little off track. So,
allowed.
So to get back onto kind of like dealing with the balancing, I've found the way my life kind of runs, and I've always found it, you can't ever find that perfect balance. Usually when I'm doing well financially and business-wise, maybe my relationship is going not through rocky, but you kind of are, not ideal in that. Then you kind of, you work on the relationship a little bit, and suddenly your fitness is up because you focus more on going to the gym. But then, like, your business starts like lagging a little bit, and it's very difficult to find that balance. So you're always kind of in this constant motion of setback and addressing the challenge and finding something new to, there's always something new. Have you got any tips on how to kind of roll with the punches and, bounce back after a really challenging period? How do you find balance and how do you deal with these challenges? And not just, we can speak about life stuff or business stuff, but generally because business people and we're humans, these things kind of merge into one another. So tell me all your secrets.
So the bouncing back. So for me, I remember I was telling you earlier that I'm very much into this, spiritual, universal stuff. And I found that it's so important to honor who you are as a human being, in every aspect of your life, right? And I think for me personally, that's the one thing in hindsight, again, I had to learn that every version of myself at that point was the version that was needed, instead of looking back at that version and shooting them down for whatever mistake I think they made or decision that was wrong. That has helped so much, because even as I move on now, it's not looking back years or months later, to your point. I've done it so frequently that weekly, daily, at the end of the day, I look back and I'm like, woof, okay, I would have done that one differently. I would have said this thing differently. But we are where we are now. And your intention, I think for me, once I again realized that my intention is always pure. I never intend to harm or hurt at any point or do wrong to another. So it's just accepting those things as well, right? So if you can do it on a daily, I found it takes a while. Easier said than done. It takes a while. But I mean, if you could get to a point where you can do those things, I find it's letting go of that day. Just let it go. It's done. Learn from it, and then move on with your day. And giving yourself time to just unwind, man. If you want the wine and it's 11 o'clock during the day, have the wine, because life can be so hectic.
No, you're giving me flashbacks to lockdown, because that was my days during lockdown. Like, it's random Tuesday and it's 10 o'clock. Let me have a beer.
Life can be so hectic, because life doesn't wait to be like, oh no, this is the perfect time for me to give you a challenge. You wake up in the morning, you open your phone, and whoopah, challenge.
Yeah.
And then I must now wait for 5 o'clock to have a glass of wine. No, I'll have a glass of wine now. And again, it's something that over time you must learn. Be in the moment. How do I try to say it to my kids? Feel the feeling, understand the feeling. Don't let it control you, though, because eventually you just need to let it go, and then you just need to learn. It's always about learning the lesson. It's always about learning the lesson, because it's either a lesson or it's a gift. That's all it ever is.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I don't know if it's maybe just Western culture. We're told that failure is not permitted and that you can't make mistakes. But anything that you do, you learn from mistakes. Like, life is nothing but a series of mistakes and setbacks that you have to learn to deal with. So I think that this whole kind of failure is not an option, and if you're not first, you're last mentality is really detrimental to us as humans.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I think that's why, for me, one of the things that helps me to bounce back is being gentle with myself. It's so important to also be real with your reality. You're wearing many hats, and that obviously will come with its own challenges, with its own consequences, So you need to be gentle with yourself, that sometimes you can't be number one in everything. Sometimes you can't be like 5 star. What is it? The accolades in school, the star that you get.
Yes.
You won't get a star for every subject sometimes. So accepting that as your reality, I think for me is the first step. And that comes with a lot of reflecting. I think it's similar to what Mponeng was saying, that on a daily basis, I think sometimes we get into the rush of things. We're always rushing. We're always on to the next deal. We're worried about this. We're worried about cash flow. There's a lot going on, you know, and you can even miss, like, for instance, for me, my health took a knock. My health took a knock. And it was difficult for me to get back up, but I had to accept that I got to this point because of A, B, C, and D, right? But now that I'm here, what is it that I need to do to recover or get back, you know, on track in this one aspect? And also not looking at things as though everything now, the whole world is crashing. It's only one aspect. You're doing great in other things, and that's so important, you know. To put things in the pockets where they belong, you know, and not make it a you thing. And it's so important to find the things that ground you as a person. And those are different for everybody, right? And you need to constantly go back to those moments. Other people will say, for me, my family grounds me. If I'm going through whatever, I shut out everything, go away with my family, and I come back refreshed. And that works, right, for that person. For other people, meditation, there's a whole lot of things that people can do, but find what works for you. What is that happy place, that thing that centers you, where you find peace, times of refreshment, and also schedule it, make it
Priority.
make it priority in your life. And I think for me, those are the things that have helped me to bounce back a couple of times, because it's a graph, man. You know, one of those that
a constant roller coaster.
and you have to pick yourself up, because other people in actual fact don't bounce back. And that's where that quotient, adversity quotient, we just learned that a couple of months ago, the AQ, you know, it's so important to be aware of it, that when you're having those down moments in one aspect of your life, how do you get back up, you know, and make sure that you continue and not stay in that trump, you know, and find yourself being negative and just going down.
I think it's got a lot to do with, you know, mental strength. And I think that we all, not just women, I think all of us sell ourselves short at how mentally tough we are actually. Because, you know, I think of some of the family members that I have, they've been through quite a lot. And, you know, when they tell their stories, people are like, you know, I don't know if I would have been able to cope with that. And like my mom has been through quite a lot. She lost both her parents quite, you know, suddenly, and it was through dementia, and it was a horrible kind of 2 to 3 year period. And then you've got the estates to wind up, and you know, visibly you can see how that aged my mom. But people are like, oh, I don't know if I could have coped. And my mom's like, well, what was the alternative?
Yeah.
You know,
what else could I do?
You have to cope. And luckily, we've got, well, most people, I think, have got a decent support system. And if you don't, I mean, that's one of the critical things for me, is to make sure that there is that support system, that you've got X person to go when you're struggling with something, you can speak to that person. And when you're struggling with another problem, you can go to the other person, just to kind of bounce it off and gain some perspective. Because, you know, what is the alternative?
What is the alternative?
I think that, like I say, like mental toughness, I think people are generally a lot tougher than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And I think mental toughness is something that, again, we don't speak about a lot. We speak about mental issues. And I think people then shy away from that because automatically it's crazy. And so people don't want to be associated with crazy. But it's just sometimes it could be mental exhaustion.
Yes.
You know, and just that ability to regenerate yourself every now and then is also so important.
Yeah.
And I find, like, you know, these little affirmations every now and then can be so helpful. Or just breaks, just breathe.
I think that, like you've brought it up now, this kind of mental wellness type of thing. And, you know, I suffer from depression and I'm on medication and I've got all kinds of things that help me cope with it. And it's such a, like you say, I've started becoming more comfortable telling people that I do suffer from depression because there's a stigma that we need to break, and we're not going to break it unless people speak about it. But, you know, there's always that risk that now someone looks at me and like, oh, she is crazy, you know, and I'm not. It's like, oh, well, I am a little bit, but not in the way that you think. But, you know, there's that stigma. And I think that especially in a country like South Africa, there's still very much a massive stigma about mental wellness and mental toughness. And like if me as someone with depression who can bounce back and got retrenched and managed to start a business in lockdown, and you know, if I can do it, then anyone can do it. So it really is just it is a state of mind, and you need to find that within yourself.
And I think with us being a people management company, mental wellness is so important, you know, regardless of the size of the organization. And I think that's something that we don't speak about. You know, it's only these big corporates that have those programs and all of that. But one of the advice that we give even to smaller organizations as well is you need to be intentional. There's so much that you can do out there. There's so much that's free even, you know, that even if you have one staff member, two, or you're the only person, tap into those. I mean, even the information is free on Google, you know.
Yes.
But we need to break down the stigma.
Because I mean, there was this lady we had gone to this conference, a women's conference, and there was this lady who was actually even saying that, you know, where she grew up, and she grew up in Alexander, right? She's like, you can't tell them you've got a therapist and a therapist appointment, or you are even got depression, or any mental situation, because they'll be like, oh, you've got enough time to have these kind of problems.
Yes.
You know, it's almost seen as a luxury to have.
It's crazy.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's in South Africa especially, that's why it's been such a stigma for people to say that, you know, this is something that I'm suffering from. And I think it's the more we talk about it, the more people will actually say, you know, I have it, this is how I'm dealing with it, and you know, you're fine. You're I don't want to say normal. I don't think I'm a normal human being. I tell my kids,
what is normal? Define normal. You know, like everyone's got their own definition.
Why must I be normal? I don't want to be normal.
Yeah.
You know. So for me, I think the more we speak about it, and we speak about it without, like right now you made a joke about, oh, well, I am crazy, but not in that way. but I mean, then it starts, it's not so stiff anymore. And it's something that can be easily discussed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
We are running out of time, so I'm going to switch to the quick fire round. Because I'd love to carry on talking, but we could probably carry on all day. So we need to put a stop to it at some stage. So let's hit the short fire questions. So you can answer in as long or shorter form as you like. You can both answer or one answer. We'll take it as it comes. So first question: define success. No pressure.
For me, success, this might seem like I'm watering it down, but it's contentment. And that's defined differently from person to person. Because success for me might be, you know, the business is thriving, but my family, you know, is at peace. Everyone is happy and healthy. and I'm content with that. It doesn't have to go beyond, you know.
Yeah.
And for someone else, success is, you know, money, profits, wealth. And for me, once I'm a billionaire, you know, that's success for me.
Yeah.
And that person will be content. And we must get to a point of stopping to judge people, you know, about their definition of success. That's so important and so key. So for me, it's whatever makes you happy and content, that I've reached a stage where I can say I'm successful. For me personally, just to wrap up the answer, success is me being healthy, my family being at peace, and I have built a legacy that is not only going to help the next generation, but even 10 generations to come.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't need to add anything onto that because it was so beautifully. So beautiful.
I find you ladies so inspiring, and I feel quite intimidated by you. Like, so, yeah, anyway, I'm going to go like fangirl. So let's move on to the next question. Is there a specific routine or thing that you believe contributes to your success as businesswomen? So like whether it's like a 5-minute morning meditation in the morning, or like, you know, whatever it is there something that you do on a regular basis that you feel contributes?
Yes. I think I mentioned it, some of them during the conversation, but I think that self-reflection is such an important thing, because the more self-aware you are, the better you can be for yourself tomorrow, right? I think for me, once I understood that the anxieties and the negative emotions I sometimes feel have a lot more to do with what I expected from myself than the next person, the better that then became. Cardi B will be like, I'm competing with myself. I got no competition. So I've learned it's such an important thing, though, because if today I actually do the self-reflection, the following day I deal with the person, the situation in a different way, in a different manner, because I've also incorporated the next person, the situation, and all of the other things. Speaking, I think having a partner has been phenomenal. I think it's honestly, I listen to a lot of people who've started businesses by themselves, and I can't imagine through the challenges we've been through if I had to actually sit by myself in all of those things, you know. I think having a person who understands exactly what you're going through, and actually there is no other influence, and I think that's a relationship we had to hone and build ourselves. It wasn't magic, but being able to be, not have external influences come in between our relationship. We therefore deal with things differently. Yes, in between the two of us, we will discuss very passionately. But once we have agreed, and I think that's such a beautiful thing about maybe us, I don't know, I assume that most women, once we've agreed, that's the line that we're going with, and that's where we're going, and then we're just supporting each other to get to that end goal. Meditation, yes, I do it every day. I recommend it. Just a breathing, 5 minutes, just constant breathing. And the one thing I've started doing, which is I think is also very helpful in the mornings. So in the morning, I write the type of person I am for the day, that I will be, whatever I feel. I'm going to be compassionate, whatever it is going to be, the type of world I want to encounter that day, and almost, write down at a very brief for that week the things I want achieved in the business, just at a high level, just this. And then it's just beautifully to see it envisioned, and then aligning myself to be that person that achieves that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. In terms of the self-reflection, is that just kind of a mental exercise that you do, or do you actually like do journaling and that kind of thing?
I do a lot of journaling. So I do gratitude journal at night. Just 5 things that I'm grateful for. And this is so, again, Yolisa mentioned this earlier on, that when one thing is happening that's wrong, it seems like it takes over your whole world, right? But with the journals I do, the gratitude journal that I do, I actually sometimes find that, because I sit back and I think of my day, and I'll be like, oh, that cashier was so nice to me and she didn't need to be, she gave extra, and then I write that down, and it just makes me aware the following day of the more things I can be grateful for. And then I also write things that I forgive and release. That's part of the reflection. So I'll write, even if it's 3, things I forgive myself for that day. Even if I say, I was a bit impatient with Yolisa, I could have listened a bit more, I could have been quiet a bit longer. I will write that down as something that I forgive myself for, and then I release it. Those have been helping a lot.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. What do you do when you're not working on your business? Which is, like, as we discussed, possibly never, but what do you do to break away and kind of find and center yourself again?
I love to travel. So what I do is I'll have seasons of work, but I'll be intentional that, in that month, I'm going away with my husband. In that month, I'm going away with my girls. That month, that's so important, because I come back refreshed and ready, to take on the next challenge. The other thing that I've started doing, which I had lost a bit, was is reading. Because sometimes the business can take over and you find yourself only reading content that's relevant to the business only, so now I'm very intentional to read other books, novels, biographies of other people, etc. And I'm finding at least I get lost in a different world rather than concentrating on just the business. I mean, for me, this year, I think, is a year whereby I'm intentional about those things that are outside of the business. I'm attending more concerts, this year, where even if it's just one night, going to a concert, you're not at work, but you're with people that, family, and you get a different perspective.
Awesome.
Life.
I walk a lot. I just find it clears my head. So I try to incorporate walking every day in the mornings if I can.
I wish I could walk more. I've got a step counter on my watch, and some days it's like I reach 500 steps. That's not good.
No, I think it's that whole thing about being intentional. I think for me, what I've started doing is, when I take the kids to school, I just kind of dress up in my gear, and wherever I can stop and do like a quick round. If there's trees, especially, I like walking around where there's trees. Then I'll do like a quick walk. I walk a lot. I love going to these retreats where I do like a lot of I could go on like a 10-day silent retreat. For me, those are the it's also very challenging because I'm just like, silence.
I feel like working from home as an introverted writer, like most of my work is silent retreats. So you are welcome to it.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I try to do a lot of retreats. I'm actually getting into being active with the traveling as well. It's always one of those things. I want to travel. So I think this year I've also been very specific and deliberate about traveling.
Yeah.
And then I watch a lot of anime with my babies. We are on Naruto now. So yeah.
All the kid-friendly ones, I hope.
All the kid-friendly stuff. Only kid-friendly babies.
Because some of them, holy
I
cow.
know.
Not for
It's a
everybody.
tricky one. No. I'm on Naruto.
Okay.
I hope everyone is listening.
Naruto. I'll have a look. My brother's very into anime, and I can't say that it's ever caught my fancy, but I'll give Naruto a try. Maybe.
Naruto is amazing, man.
Speaking of sharing things, I'm always looking for new books to read, and I actually said to my partner this morning, I like to have about 3 to 6 books sitting on the bedside table waiting for me to read. So the next question is, if all the books in the world suddenly spontaneously combusted except for one, what would it be and why? And the why is to add it to my reading list. So is there anything that you've read recently that, or anytime, that you would recommend to somebody else?
Okay, yes. The Alchemist.
Oh, I've read
Paulo
Coelho. Yes.
Oh man, I think I've read it 3 times. I've recommended it to people who it changed their lives, right? And I think what I love about it, not only is the story format that he tells, he writes the whole book in, and the parables that you get through, the nuggets that you get, the more that you read, right? But it's so simplistic the way that he does it, and it can be applied in so many different spaces of your life, I'm just like, I'm blown away every time I read that book. And I think for me, the journey that boy goes through, it reminds me that it's a journey that each of us are constantly going through to find that gold within ourselves, and starting to see the challenges that we go through, whether it's in, I say life as if business is not life.
The air quotes have come out. Yeah.
But yeah, the challenges that you would face in life, it's for me, it's how are you perceiving it? Is it a challenge, or is it something that's giving me an opportunity to be better than myself? That book is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love it.
I need to reread it.
And for me, actually, it's one of the first novels I loved. I'm gonna butcher the title, but the book was given to me by a random person that I didn't even know, and they were like, "Here's a book. It's a spiritual book by Joyce Meyer, and I think the title is How to Succeed in Life." Might be butchering it, but it's about how to succeed just generally. And I've been meaning to go back to that book because I think at the time I was a teenager getting into adulthood, and I was dealing with a lot of things. And I mean, it touches on a whole lot of things. It touches on forgiveness. I was holding on to a whole lot of things, and I had to release those things. And that book really helped me. It touches on self-confidence, which is something that I think I'm still even working through as a person, but it really helped in elevating me and not only looking at my past and living in that past, but, believing in yourself and the fact that you can succeed, and crafting the version of yourself that you want to become in order to succeed in life. So that book most definitely is just, it's bad that I don't remember it. It's in a green cover. Succeed.
Change covers every now and then, right?
I know. I hope.
I want to tell you, since you've read The Alchemist, have you read Women Who Run with Wolves?
I have not.
That I would recommend. I think for you especially, you would like it. The lady who writes it is also a storyteller, but she's used stories almost to, I always butcher this word, decipher. I don't know why I can't decipher. Just life, right, in general. And she talks about how women are almost like, the river beneath the river. That's how we need to start understanding ourselves. And so she uses stories as antidotes or ways that different archetypes and different characteristics of being a woman can come out. It's an amazing book. But it's one of those where you have to read and reflect because it's got a lot of information.
Yes, yeah.
But it's absolutely amazing.
I like to read before I go to bed, but I've found that if I'm reading something, there is a certain genre of book that I actually need to set aside time on, like a Saturday and Sunday afternoon, because when you read books at night, generally, like, the book falls in your face eventually, and then tomorrow night you have to go back and see what you remember because you've read like 4 pages and you can't remember what's
any of them. I know.
Okay,
it's a beautiful book.
I will definitely check that one out. Final question: what is one piece of advice you wish you had received when you started your business?
Just one.
Well, yeah.
I've got one.
Otherwise, we're going to have to record a whole other podcast.
I think for me, one of the things I'm learning is that every challenge, air quotes, every challenge or every situation, actually, let me put it like that. Every situation I get into, I have been prepared for. Whether I realize it or not, whether it's the experience I was telling you about. So whether I'm trying to get into an opportunity or there is a challenge, whatever situation I want to get into or leap into or I find myself in, I am well equipped to get myself out of it and through it.
Yeah. Awesome. I think for me, and it's as simple as it may sound, is you're not alone. I think a lot of people think it's my baby. I'm in this alone. And everything that comes or that you're going through has to all come from you. But it doesn't have to. There's people out there, whether you need a life coach or whether it's someone who's walked the path before, always do your research, whatever challenge or hurdle that you face, think about, I'm sure without a doubt that someone else has gone through it. Nothing is new under the sun. Someone else has gone through it. Find out and get that information. If you can get to the person, ask for advice. And it just makes things a lot easier, to at least get guidance and advice.
Yeah. Amazing. I know that we've already run over for an hour, so I'm going to wind up. Where can people get hold of you? Like, you're obviously on LinkedIn. Where else are you? Your website? I know you've got YouTube channel. There's a podcast. There's all kinds of things. So where can people? I will be putting all the links in the show notes for people to find you. So maybe just run through where they can start looking.
Yeah, so Instagram will be there. TikTok, we've just registered. LinkedIn, I know. LinkedIn, Facebook, I think we're there by default there as well. And then the websites, like you said, imizizi.co.za and imizizi.co.za. And then Issue has our magazine, the publication, 1956. And then the podcast is currently still just on YouTube, but we're looking to put it onto Spotify and that podcast app.
Yeah. Okay. And we are on YouTube for Imizizi Conversations. So you can search for Imizizi SA for that. And just to mention that Imizizi Evolution website is under construction at the moment.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, you can find us on the Imizizi website that Mponeng shared.
Or email info@imizizi.co.za.
Perfect. And I'll have all the necessary spellings and everything, like I say, in the show notes. It'll be in the blog on my website as well. So, yeah. Thank you, ladies, so much. This has been a lot of fun. Like I was saying to Mponeng, I haven't done one of these for a while, and I forgot how much fun it is to actually people. I have broken out of my silent retreats and spoken to somebody for the first time for a long time. So thank you very much, and all the best. like I say, I'm so inspired by what you're doing, and I really wish you the best of success with everything going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Megan.
And thank you for inviting us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks.